A man's best friend. Now, that's a phrase I grew up hearing while I was young, going to school. And I knew a man's best friend to be the dog. I don't know about you. Do you know a man's best friend? Now, today we're going to talk about a man's best friend that is trained. And we have a guest with us. This is Now Tell Us. And I'm your host, Anthony Moirode. At Now Tell Us, we have guests come and tell us stories. They come and inspire us. They come and educate us on a subject. And always we have a great time with all our guests. We are live on many platforms: Facebook, YouTube, um, trying to connect to Instagram so that we are live also there. Um, not sure that it's going live. I think it's a challenge there. But anyway, if it doesn't go live, then we are okay. So we are glad that you're here from wherever you're watching us or listening to us. Please remember to share this episode with all your friends. If you have a question, please ask. If you have any comment about this podcast, then we appreciate. We thank you in advance. And I won't take much more time. I'll just ask you to join me as we got to meet our guest today. His name is Brady Foulk. Now, it's a hard name for me to pronounce, but anyway, he's going to tell me whether I butchered his name. So, all of you, wherever you are, this is Now Tell Us. I'm your host, Anthony Moirode, a motivational speaker and author. I've authored two books. That's Be Good for Good, Stories of Goodness with Lessons on Life, and the Achieve Your Dream Workbook. You can get them on Amazon. So go get them. But okay, wait. Don't go. Right here, we are going to have our guest today. Let's go and hear what he has to tell us about a man's best friend who is trained. Please, let's go and meet our guest, Brady. Here we go. Hello, Brady.
Hello, hello. Thanks for
Hi.
having me.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thank you for coming to my podcast.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I want your audience to know if they have a dog. We're going to be talking a lot about dogs today. So if you want them to listen better, you're in the right place. But if you don't want them just to listen better, but you want to have more of a connection with your dog and play some games with them, you're definitely in the right place. So I just want to congratulate anyone who's listening right now because we're going to dive into some dog training games and questions. And I'm excited to be here and answer these questions, Anthony.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I know many people love dogs. I used to have a dog when I was young, when I was growing up. But the experience that I had back then is quite different from the experience that I have come to meet, to see around where I am right now. And it's something that maybe I could touch on. Yeah, so I was trying to connect on something that we have been trying to add on to our broadcast. This is live streaming on Instagram. It didn't go well with me on my side. How is your side?
I was able to get it up on Instagram, but I had to redo it and add another stream key.
Okay,
It's
it's
it gave me
working.
an error. Yeah.
It's working. Good. That's wonderful. So, yeah, thank you. Let's.
On the live, we're like you can't see our faces. It's just like half and half of our face, but it's okay.
Oh.
I don't think we can fix that.
I thought it was going to come as full as it should. Anyway, let's just go ahead with what we have because we have enough people who are already tuned into us. Thank you, each and every one of us who is tuned to this broadcast today as we are here with Brady. How's your name pronounced correctly?
Yeah, my last name is Folk, like a folk tale.
Okay, like a folk tale. Ah, okay, because and
Uh,
thank you for that. So, where are you based?
I'm in Austin, Texas.
Oh, a place I always dreamt of going.
Really?
Yes, because
How
I
come?
used to see them westerns, and I see the horses and the cowboys, and say we are in Texas, and I'm saying, okay, one day I'm gonna be there.
That's funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
in Austin, it's more hipstery, and there's not as many cowboys walking around, but you still see some cowboys walking around with some boots on and some hats. And
Mm-hmm. That's
but yeah,
interesting.
I moved from San Diego, California, so I went from the beach to
Uh,
Texas.
Okay, let me go back to my story. How I used to own a dog
Okay.
when I was young. That was way back, several years back, and I was in the village somewhere in Africa, in the east of Africa. I come from a place called Kenya. Now, the interesting thing was, yes, I used to hear man's best friend, but the dogs, our dogs, they used to stay outside the house, and they used to go just anywhere they want to and eat anything they want to. And I found that was okay because that's what I came to know when I was born. But then at some point, I moved uh, to another place, to Europe. And what I discover is that dogs are kept in the house. They are very well taken care of. And if you touch a dog, then you are the enemy of the owner. So they are trained, they are told sit, they sit, they don't bark aimlessly. And I'm curious, and this is why I'm bringing you on here. I'm curious, with your experience, about your experience with dogs, and how you came to this point, or that you decided, hey, I want to be a closer friend to the dogs and train them. Tell us your story.
Yeah, most definitely. And
Hmm.
before we begin, I always like to let people know that the average dog, and that's Chihuahuas, Pomeranians, German Shepherds, Border Collies, the average dog, any dog, can learn 165 words on average, right? So that's 165 different things. It's incredible, right?
Wow.
And
That's
so I have a feeling like most people's dogs could learn like 20 to 30 more words quite easily, and they just don't know it yet.
mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
and I for sure didn't know how I got started, right? I grew up around dogs, but they kind of were just wild animals. Ours slept outside sometimes. Like we had 13 acres, so they would just be off exploring, doing kind of whatever they wanted to. They would sometimes be allowed in the house, but sometimes they stole things. Sometimes they knocked over the trash can. But that was kind of just our life growing up. So when I moved out from my family's house, I got my first couple of big boy jobs, and I had settled down at one position, and I had been there for a few months, and I was like, now's a good time to get a dog. And people are like, don't get a dog, man. It's going to change everything. I was like, no, I want a dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got this dog, and I thought it was going to be easy. Like I could just buy the best food. I could buy the treats. I would let it sleep in my bed, and Bumblebee is his name. And I did all these things, and sure enough, I
Uh,
came home one day after hanging out with some friends. I'd been gone like maybe 2 hours.
mm-hmm.
And I left in this little playpen area with some potty pads and stuff, and the potty pads were destroyed. The carpet was ripped up. There was poop everywhere. My room stunk. I had to go get a carpet cleaner that night from Home Depot. It was terrible.
Yeah.
So I went through a couple of these moments before I finally hit my rock bottom. I was like, oh, this is only going to happen this time. It's not going to happen again. Like he's learned his lesson. No, he
Mm-hmm.
did not. There was no way for me to actually communicate these things for me to him.
Mm-hmm.
So I hit my rock bottom, and I don't know if anyone here feels like they've hit their rock bottom with their dog too. But what I did is I went and found someone to go mentor me and to go learn from. So I found a woman, her name is Susan Garrett, and I paid her thousands of dollars to join her programs and to learn from her and other dog trainers. I've read many books and I did the whole YouTube thing, right? But at a certain point, you need to find someone that you can ask questions to. So I found that person. And my job, it was funny, right? The day after my birthday, I got laid off, and they didn't know it was my birthday or anything. They're just like, hey, times are slow right now. It's a small company, right? And you were the last one in, so you're the first one out. And I was like, oh, okay, well, cool. I was
Uh,
like, well, this was in 2019. And I was like, well,
mm-hmm.
this is a good time to start doing some more dog training. And I was already helping friends and family just do stuff for free. And I was like, okay, I'll charge $25 for like an hour. And I
Okay.
started doing that and just helping people, just getting more referrals and um, going and just trying different marketing stuff, right? Like Facebook ads and all that good stuff, right? And I started getting some clients. Facebook ads are really expensive though. So
Yeah.
don't recommend
And
those at the
maybe they
beginning. It was
don't give
more
you the
organic.
results that you would expect them to give.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. You learn a lot.
Mm.
So that was like the first business. And then COVID happened. And so then I was doing virtual lessons, like online Zoom lessons. Uh, and as we continue to get out of COVID, I started going back to in person as people felt safe again, and I felt safe. And we did outdoor lessons. And now I got my business back going in San Diego, and prices still continue to increase out there. So I moved to Austin, Texas, like a year and a half ago, and I restarted everything from scratch. And I've helped like 30 people out here now in the last year and a half, and I just continue to keep grow and expand and just spread by word of mouth.
Mm. How
Yeah.
do you do dog training online? That's interesting.
It is very interesting. You have to be very elegant with your words and how you describe things, because there are certain things that they have to be done in the right order.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, it's talking to them and then guiding them through it, and then taking a break and like being okay, this is what you did, this is what needs to happen now. It was a lot of back and forth, and it's way easier doing it in person with them. But what it did give me though is like going through these challenges, I made an online program, so I recorded myself doing these videos with the dogs, and then I was able to show them that, and that helped change a lot versus me just trying to talk them through it. They could watch me do it with my own dog or with a different dog, you know.
Okay, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
So I was looking at your profile, and one of the reasons that I said, okay, this guy needs to be on my podcast, because I found something interesting, and maybe you'll tell us how these two links, or maybe how these three link up. I see
Uh-huh.
you're a dog trainer, and then you're a life coach, and then
Mhm.
you there's something mentioning about psychology. How do these all
Hmm.
come together?
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Mm,
Yeah, there's many different ways you can teach dogs, and there's many different ways you can lead too. I like leading through growth and through science-based principles. So psychology, to take you back to like high school psychology, Ivan Pavlov, he showed that when you ring a bell, he can make a dog drool. And this experiment is profound because it showed that you can transfer a behavior to something that means nothing to the dog. And
mm-hmm.
what that means for us, right, is a lot of times when you knock at the door, your dogs bark, right?
Yeah.
That behavior has been transferred to the sound of the door. So what I like to nerd out about is like, okay, how can I get the sound of the knock to mean go to your bed or to lay down or just to be quiet, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the first principle that I use. And then operant conditioning is the second principle that I use. And that's this idea that everyone does something to either avoid pain or to get pleasure. And what that means for us is there's elegant ways to show this, and there's not so elegant ways. So, like, I don't use e-collars or prong collars or punishment in that sense, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
still use pain, but it's more psychological pain. What
Mm-hmm.
I mean by that is I give you a choice. I put out a handful of food and I go, do you want to steal this food from me? If they try to steal this food, I just cover the food from them. I just don't let them take it, right?
Mm-hmm.
To them, that's painful because they're like, oh my gosh, why can't I get this food? They'll start licking my hands, they'll start clawing on my hands. I don't say anything to them. I just keep my hands covered like this.
Mm-hmm.
After a little bit of time, they give up and then they back away. And then I open my hands. What happens is they see the food again. They've been conditioned when I see food, I take food, which is a helpful behavior in the wild. Like that is what keeps you alive in the wild. But when you're in my house, that behavior is not helpful because I don't want you to eat my burrito, man.
Yeah.
So we go back and forth, and I show the dog that when you try to steal, it's painful because you can't take it from me. And then
Mm-hmm.
when you back away, that's pleasurable because now the food's available, and then I'll give you one. And so I show them these little ways to communicate. And humans are doing everything for the same reason. We're either trying to avoid pain or we're trying to get pleasure, right? There's different experiences of life that you can have.
Mm.
Um, but anywho, I combine these things together because sometimes my clients are like, I click the clicker and I give the dog a treat, and they're like, man, I want a treat too. And so rewarding people when they do things right is a very powerful thing. And it's rewarding is different than bribing, right? It's not like I'm holding a candy bar above your head and saying, do this thing. It's like, no, when you do the right thing, then I'm going to reward you, but I'm not going to let you steal from me.
Mm. Okay. So the psychology and the life coaching is actually focusing on the dog. I thought you are also combining this with training humans on how to behave and how to.
Yes, no, I definitely am too. So the coaching the humans part is like people ask, do you just love dogs? And I was like, well, I do love dogs. The thing is, you have to love both people and dogs
Mm,
because you can train the dog, but then you got to get the human to follow through. So that's where the coaching comes in for the human. And really for them, I'm just an accountability partner to ask like, hey, have you done these things? And also I've lived these experiences before. I've
okay.
had an Australian Shepherd and I went through my rock bottoms, and I was able to break through those things. So I share these stories with you. And then I ask you, hey, you said you were going to do 5 minutes of training today. Did you do 5 minutes of training today? Right. And then I help you set goals. And when limiting beliefs come up, like, oh, I don't know how to do that, or I'm going to fail, or I'm going to make a mistake, then I help show you that, perfection is actually the lowest standard that you can have, because if you look around in the world, there's nothing perfect around us.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're striving for perfection, you're never going to reach it. So it's better just to get out there and go do something and learn from it. And so that's part of my job too, is getting the humans to just enjoy the process too.
Wow, that's cool. And it's good. It's understandable that you don't just train them on the result, which is the man's best friend in this case, but you also look at the individual, because you could be teaching him or her something that cannot be applicable depending on his emotions, his state of mind, and his. Yeah, I see. I understand. They connect.
Yeah. And even so much so, like emotions of getting anxiety or over worried, like for the humans too, like they got to be able to overcome those, because sometimes I work with people with dogs that have been reactive,
Mm-hmm.
and then they don't know it, but they start shortening their breath and they start putting more tension on the leash, and they start doing these things, these patterns, and playing the story in their head that their dog's going to attack someone or something bad's going to happen. And
Yeah.
then that's also in the psychology of like, how do you rewire those things and be like, stop, I have a good boy, and then also setting up situations to teach the dog how to be a good boy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I myself has not very much focused on knowing the types of dogs and the things they do. But I have a nephew who is always very interested. He knows, he mentions this dog, that dog, and tells me this is how it behaves. Uh, the different types of dogs that you know and you've trained, which could be the brightest, and maybe, yeah, which it could be interesting to teach tricks and train.
Yeah, some dog trainers, they get really down into the breed specific things, and those are important. Like I have an Australian Shepherd, and he's more prone to herding type behavior, so like nipping at heels and stuff. I like to think of dogs as two types. They're either very driven, and you have like the Australian Shepherds or like the Chihuahuas. And then you have very intelligent dogs, which are like the Border Collies and the Poodles and the German Shepherds, right? And sometimes you got a little bit of mix of both, but my goal is to take the very driven dogs and help educate them a little bit, and to teach them how to be a little bit more thoughtful. You don't always have to break through the wall by running through it. Sometimes you can go around the wall. And the
Hmm.
poodles, you don't see poodles breaking through walls a lot of times. You see poodles thinking about a problem. And like, for example, I have a mini Aussie Doodle. So part Australian Shepherd, part poodle. And she's very sharp, and she has a sister. She was staying at her sister's house, and her sister had a bully stick, and she wanted the bully stick.
Hmm.
Now, a very driven dog, sometimes they go over and they just go take that thing from the other dog.
Hmm.
She's not that type of person. What she does is she's like, okay, I want this thing. she knows her sister really likes playing with her. So she went and got a toy and she started playing with the toy herself. Her sister saw that, dropped the bully stick, and came over and started chasing her. She threw the toy. Her sister went and chased it, and then she went and took the bully stick. And it's like, it's just brilliant. They're
Uh-huh.
very, very smart animals. So when I'm training animals, I'm looking at it more from the psychology of like, okay, what's the sound of the door not conditioned to? What's the sound of dogs, or what is conditioned, what is linked up? And then how do I change that can serve me a little bit better or serve their owner better?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why that's important is because I have guinea pigs and I've
Okay.
worked at animal refuge. And the way that I train, I have to have a way that works universally on all types of animals, because if I try to intimidate a guinea pig, the guinea pig's not going to come to me, right? It's going to run away from me.
Yeah.
So I have to find ways to communicate that are universal to all the dogs. So a lot of the times I'll teach them to touch their nose to a target stick or to my hand. And this just can communicate to very driven dogs or to very educated dogs. And it's just brilliant because you don't have to think about all the breed specific things. You can just be like, okay, what do I want my dog to do? Let's get them to do this thing.
Okay.
And how you guide
Mm-hmm.
them.
Interesting. Interesting.
Does that answer your question? Like, I taught a pig how to paint, right? And people are like, how do you teach a pig how to paint? And it's like, all you got to do is teach them how to pick up something with their mouth. And
Mm-hmm.
then you got to teach them how to hold on to it. So it's like teaching a retrieve. And then you got to get them to go over to the board, and then just move their head around, right? And you can teach them more complicated things like how to move their head in a circle or like a line and different things. But for her, it was just like picking up the brush and bringing it over to the canvas. And we like had a string attached to it to make it easier at first. But yeah, it's just basic psychology.
Wow, I haven't heard that pigs can paint. I've seen elephants paint, and I thought, wow,
Mm,
these are bright creatures.
yeah.
Yeah. And in that, which is your most interesting thing that you teach, or maybe something that you've seen in, the dogs do, and you say, oh, I maybe it's not a play, something that you have done it. What's the most interesting thing that you think that a dog can do, or you've made it do?
Yeah, the one of the most fun things that I've had training is teaching my dog how to get a water bottle or a beer out of the fridge. That one was a fun one because it was on my I believe what you write, you invite. And so I made a list when I first started dog training of all the things that I wanted to train so I could start training my brain to focus on these things. And they were some silly things like getting a beer out of the fridge and bringing it to me. There were some bigger things like being able to lay on your bed when friends came over. And then there was just like fun things like being able to like jump through a hula hoop or go on a walk with me, right? But this one was the longest that it took me to train, just because it kind of intimidated me a little bit at first, because it's like, how do you train a dog to bring a beer? But once I broke down the steps, I was like, well, there's really three parts, right? You got to be able to shut the fridge door after you open it. You got to be able to grab the water bottle and bring it to me. And then you got to be able to open the fridge. And so once you know those three parts, then I start training the last thing first. So I taught him how to touch his nose to a post-it note, and then I put the post-it note on the fridge. And so he would jump up and touch his nose to it and shut the fridge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I taught him how to grab the water bottle and then just bring it to me. So I started with an empty water bottle because, it's just a little bit easier, because one time I gave him a
Yeah.
full water bottle and he had water everywhere, right? So we went through some of these learning curves, and I had to teach him how to like hold it softly, which is a whole nother conversation. But
Mm.
once I was able to teach him to bring me the water bottle and then give it to me, and then he would go back and shut the fridge, because that was the first thing that we did. He's like, okay, I know I got to shut this fridge to get the treat.
Mm-hmm.
And then final part is opening the fridge. So that's just playing tug. And so I put a tug toy on the fridge and I told him to go get it. And he like grabbed it and he opened up the fridge. And then he saw the water bottle. He knew he'd already learned that. So then he grabbed the water bottle and brought it to me. And he's like, oh, to get the treat, I got to shut the fridge door. And he went up and shut the fridge door. And that one was fun to kind of put together. And I did this because I was training a service dog for a woman in a wheelchair, and her dog needed to do it. So I was like, well, I might as well teach my dog how to do it too. Like, this is
Okay.
something I've always wanted to do.
But I guess it's a lot of work to be patient enough to get it do exactly the way you want it to do.
I look at patience different than other people do. A lot of people say that I have a lot of patience, and I say I don't. I'm a very impatient person. I like to go, go, go. But the difference is how I look at the problem. I see all the tiny steps that we're taking in between. So I see it as a lot of movement. Some people see things and they don't notice all the tiny details that are happening, all the times
Mm.
where the dog's brain is thinking and they're growing. And so they're like, "Oh man, you're so patient to wait." And I was like, "Nah, it's a different day every single day. Like the dog is a different dog every single day." So I'm like learning as I'm going through this thing. And there's patience in the sense that you have to do the ordinary extraordinarily well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with anything in life. Like if you go to the gym, you're not doing different workouts. You're doing your squats, you're doing your bench press, you're doing your deadlifts, you're doing those main core workouts every single time for years, right? You're
Mm.
not going to be like, oh, I'm bored of doing the target stick or doing bench press. It's like, no, this is what I do to grow this muscle. And then there's tiny games in between those things. And
Okay.
so I'm always looking at it like that. So I'm just like building, building. It's like a Lego kind of.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Now we have a question from one of our viewers. Her name is Mishka, and Mishka is saying she has a question, and because you talked about thinking at some point. Now Mishka asks, "Do you believe that dogs truly know we speak loving words to them?" Because Mishka tells her dog, her little rescue, every day how much she loves her and how beautiful she is.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a brilliant question, and I'll tell you, yes, they do truly know the loving speaking words we do, and I'll tell you the psychology why.
Mm-hmm.
There's a brilliant book, um, and it talks about the healing powers of water. And one of the experiments he does is he takes photos of waters as he's saying different words to him, as he's saying "I love you" or "Thank you," and then he takes photos and he can see the crystals on it. That one took him a long time to like be able to time it right to get the photos. Another experiment that he does, and a lot more people have heard of this one, is the rice in a jar. Then you take rice, you cook the rice, right, and you put it in a jar. You have three different jars. One you say nice things to, like I love you and thank you and gratitude, like love and gratitude. The other
Mm-hmm.
one you say mean things to, like I hate you, you're ugly, you're a waste of space. And the third one, you just leave in a cabinet in a dark space. You don't open it, you don't say nothing to it, you just leave it alone, right? So this experiment is brilliant because the jar that you say I love you to and thank you to, it stays and it preserves, and like it doesn't, the mold does not grow as fast as the one that you say I hate you to and you're ugly and you're disgusting. And truthfully, when I was doing this, I did it a couple weeks ago. It's I don't even like saying I hate you to rice. I was like, man, I'm being really mean. I'm like, you're an asshole. Like I hate you. All these things to this rice. And then sure enough, you start seeing mold grow on it. And then the wildest thing though is the jar in the dark space left alone. That one is the worst. Like out of all the jars, like even saying mean things to someone is better than just ignoring them and pretending like they don't exist.
Whoa, whoa, that's interesting. Really interesting.
Powerful stuff.
Really interesting. And you did the experiment yourself?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. 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 I'm going to do it again. I'm going to document it all because, yeah, I think it's really cool for people to see.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. I don't know whether I'm gonna try myself, but anyway, at some point when I have a lot, not a lot going on, maybe I could just give that experiment a try. And this is just to remind me and remind the person who is there the strength, the power of words. We've got to be careful of the words that we speak. And now, speaking to your animals, speaking to your fellow human being, those words do
Yeah.
really matter. Thank you for sharing that, Brady.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're all vibrations.
And Mishka agrees with that because she's been doing that to her plants.
Yeah.
Yes,
It does
she's
work with plants too.
uh-huh. So it makes this makes her heart happy and sad at the same time.
No, really, I felt really bad saying mean thing to the rice. I'm like, I'm killing this thing.
Yeah, you're saying. So we've got to be careful the words that we speak around
Yeah.
us, and because
One other thing that I like to share too, and they did this other experiment. It's called Hoponopono, and the psychologist he worked at a mental hospital, and these some of the craziest patients there were, and all he did is repeat these four phrases over and over again. He would say, "I love you," "I'm sorry," "Please forgive me," and "Thank you." And he would say these over and over again, and he would accept the responsibility for these things. And sure enough, this power that's bigger than ourselves, these vibrations that we're talking about, this energy, right? It would start healing things. And these inmates, it's one of the most profound experience ever. Um, you can still look it up, right? A lot of these, they had all these different rules and regulations, and no one wanted to work there. To everyone being cohesive, prisoners were allowed to leave again because they felt better. The guy didn't do any like typical therapy with them. He just repeated, "I love you," "I'm sorry," "Please forgive me," "Thank you," over and over again. It's kind of crazy.
it's crazy, crazy, crazy stuff there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's interesting, and yeah, we thank you for coming, Brady, and thank you for our viewers and listeners. Thank you, Mishka, for the contribution. We really appreciate that. We are almost coming to the end, but I thought that we could keep on talking because I think there are a lot of things that we could share.
Yeah.
Like this one, I was thinking, just like we mentioned, the power of words. I don't know about your place, but and I guess it's the same in many other places because it's something that I identified in other places. Uh, Here we are talking about a man's best friend, but it's an interesting fact, an interesting idea that the word dog is used as a curse word.
Really?
Isn't it that in your place now? When in my place, if you, I mean, you just someone pisses you off, and then you hear someone calling another one the dog, as if you that's it's a curse word. It's how's that? If it's a man's best friend. Now, please don't say bad words to your pet. Don't say bad words to your friends. Don't say bad words to your children, to your anybody that you love. Now, if it's your
Yeah.
man's best friend, please don't think negatively about it. Speak some positive words, affirmative words, and train your best friend. And by the
Yeah.
way, I know you have got some material that people can benefit from, and maybe some of the people would want to connect with you. How do they do that?
Great. Yeah, if you want, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at ND Dog Training. And if you send me a message, DM, and that just says dog training, I'll send you my dream dog PDF. And it's the process that I went through to getting my dream dogs. I talked about this idea of writing down what you want. That's
Mhm.
step one, right? I take you through four other steps in order to achieve your dream dog. So if you message me dog training, I'll send that to you, and then we can go from there.
And I guess you have a website.
Yes, if you look up newdirectiondogtraining.com, you can go through there and you can sign up. I have a free inner circle, so we do uh, meetings on there. We're like twice a month right now. We're working on getting going. There's a WhatsApp group too that I'll share trainings to. Like right now, I'm training my puppy. She's 7 months old. Curiosity is her name, to ride a skateboard. And I got this skateboard, right? I was like, okay, she's a smaller dog. She weighs like 25 pounds. And I was like, I'll get a kid's skateboard. This thing's probably going to be like, not like an adult skateboard, but like a kid's one,
Hmm.
medium size. No, this skateboard is like 8 inches long and like 6 inches wide. And I'm like, this thing is impossible. And my brother's helping me make videos for Instagram and stuff. And he goes, bro, I'm like, I'm going to return it. He's like, bro, you can't. You have to teach her how to ride the skateboard. And I was like, man, good thing we got 30 days because she's going to need it to hop on this little tiny thing. And so I'm documenting that journey right now on social media too, if you want to follow along for that.
Wow, that's interesting. So you go and follow Brady, and then follow that. Those now that reminds us of how, like myself, when I was growing up, I used to see some dog movies. The
Mm,
actors, some dog actors.
yeah,
Interesting.
I thought about that too. That's like a whole nother niche of training animals.
Yeah, so maybe that's one of your dream ideas. What's in the future? Now that we've come to that point, what's in your future?
Yeah, what's in my future is I want to build a legacy, and I believe that the way to do that is by being an even brighter light than I already am right now. So by continuing to grow and to build a family of dog trainers. So anyone who's interested in leaving maybe their 9 to 5 job, just like I did, and starting to become a dog trainer, right? There's steps that I took. You got to learn the dog training part and the marketing part, but I have experience in both. So I want to continue doing that and then open up my own facility out here in Texas, in Austin, Texas, that I can start having more people come to, and a location. So the goal is to buy land this year and to start construction on a dog training facility out here. So yeah, that's my big goal for this year, and we're working towards that every single day.
That's cool. Sounds cool.
Oh no, it's brilliant.
Yeah. A few words that we should never forget. Tell us something that you hold dear in your hand that we should never forget.
Yeah, man, this story comes to mind, right? So everyone already knows I'm a dog training expert, and I speak up because I think this is about leadership and how you lead. And we've been talking about leadership a little bit, so I'll share an insight with you. I watched on camera as one of my roommates kicked and punched my dog, Bumblebee, and it lit a fire inside of me. It was one of the most maddest times I've ever been, and I learned something. Being a leader is more than getting results. You can lead in three different ways. You can lead with fear and intimidate, you can bribe people, and then you can lead with growth. And all three are going to work, all come with consequences, but only one is going to give you the fulfillment that you crave. So I'm sure that we all can remember the leaders who intimidated and bribed us, and how did that make us feel. And I'm sure you can still remember the great leaders that inspired and rewarded you for just growing and becoming more. So I let people know that it's about how you want to be remembered by your dog. And when you get furious, get curious and just start asking, like, what's great about this problem right now? Because I tell you what, you don't have to have the dog. You get to have this dog, and take the time to connect with it and grow with them or her, because it's their spiritual teachers, I believe.
Hmm. We'll remember that. And thank
I
you
love
for
it.
sharing.
My pleasure, man.
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming, Brady. It's been such an honor.
I'd
We
love to
are,
come back if you ever have me.
yeah, you're always welcome. And we also want to thank each and every person who's watched us or listened to us. Even if you get to listen to this or watch it after we've recorded, we thank you for taking your time. Please take care of your best friend, your man's best friend. And don't forget to head on to newdirectiondogtraining.com and get to learn more. This has been Now Tell Us. I have been your host, Anthony Morore, and together with our wonderful guest, Brady, we're saying go there and yeah, let the dogs learn. Peace. Bye for now. Wow, those are wonderful things. I'm gonna learn how you did that.